Welcome, everyone. Another episode of Navigating Consciousness, lucky number 22. I'm just going to pull up the chart of the person I'm going to be working on today, so just bear with me. This also just gives us some time for people to come in, if they're going to come in today. No rush. All right. All right, John, I'm just sending you the chart.
Okay.
Sending
Email, text.
email. For some reason, oh, there we go. All right. All right, Allison, good to see you. Thanks for coming in today, as per usual. All right. So, I'm not sure where I want to start today. There's actually quite a bit of things that I could get into before we get to the work part, which has actually been something I've really been looking forward to. Also, I just want to say the sound might be a little bit weird today, but it just couldn't be helped. Just had a technical issue, and so dropping cards. Yeah. I got the advice to bring some tarot into this podcast, and so we're gonna start off with that today. Allison, since you're here, is there anything that you'd like me? Well, you know what? Let's look at the question that you emailed me before we got started, and then that'll actually be a nice little foray. Yeah. So finances. Finances are on a lot of people's minds. As per usual, finances have been on people's minds. It's a pretty dominant topic, and one that's also very, what's the right word? Touchy. People feel embarrassed when they don't have money. They don't want to talk about it. It's like, things have definitely changed from when I was young, but when I was young, you didn't want to necessarily also talk if you had like a lot of money. It wasn't really the thing, it wasn't polite to talk about how much you made, and you weren't supposed to ask people, how much they made or how much they paid for this or whatever it was. It's kind of a private thing. And that kind of gave it this air of mystique also. It's like, mysterious, right? We're not supposed to talk about it, but everybody has it and everyone's working for it. And, and then you get a bit older and you start to understand that, like we've been kept from understanding, like what money is, like what is it actually? And then you can start getting into, some real far out territory, which actually is based in fact. Like I've seen people navigate the financial market in this way that we are basically being used as collateral. So like the United States has a debt of, I don't know, whatever it is, $14 trillion or something right now, and so it's like, yeah, well, what are they using for collateral? Resources, GDP, productive quality, blah blah blah, but also citizens. And and like, how does fractional reserve banking actually work? Like, how does this whole thing actually work? It's purposefully kept from us. We're not taught about money in school. We're taught about literally everything else. And then it's also like, when people start talking about visions for the future, the money part of that conversation is fairly immature. You know, it's like we can't even really conceive of a different sort of financial system. You know, it's like capitalism and communism. It doesn't really matter. You know, fascism. It's using banks. It's using currency. So, you know, it's not to say that we need to overthrow this and develop a whole new way of being with it, but it will work to our advantage if we understood it, you know, and like knew how to use it. And it's been used against us. You know, even people with a lot of money, they don't know what it is, right? They just did what they did to make a lot of money, but they don't know what it is, you know. And they're, you know, it can all be taken away. Like, just look at, you know, what's happening to Donald Trump right now. You know, the power structure decided that he should be financially ruined, and so they're doing everything that they can to make that happen. You know, you can be debanked. You know, it can really, you know, it's all very centralized. It's very, very centralized. So anyway, so we're going to work on that. I have a woman who I'm going to be working on today. Her name is Lucia. She's very cool manifester, emotional manifester, and she wants some work on the finances. And then Allison emailed me before the pod tonight, also asking about finances. And the magician keeps on popping out, so we'll leave him there. This is a pretty cool deck, actually, that I'm using. It's a copy of a medieval Italian tarot deck, and so there's some pretty kind of risque imagery in it. Actually, I'll see if I can find something. It's cool looking, and it's very I don't know. I like the imagery of it. It's got some interesting, you know, power to it. Anyway. So we get the magician. This card keeps on popping up. And that's actually, yeah, something that I feel that we can do today. It is sort of like, yeah, we're not developing a whole new strategy necessarily, or not right away, but there is something that can be formed, something that can come into form currently. Yeah. So, Allison, I pulled a card for you and what your relationship to the magician is. We got 4 of Cups. Yeah, so you're just, you know, there's a closed off, right? It's like there's messages trying to get in, you're not hearing it. And that's right now, when I look at it, that would be, I guess, like the part that is causing the most disruption. And it's, you know, good messages, bad message, you know, good energy, bad energy, it doesn't really matter. It's just like it's not penetrating, it's not getting in. Yeah. So the card that I pull is the 7 of Wands. This is sort of about the current relationship that we all have. And the 7 of Wands is, you know, it's like it's a bit of a battle. It's not, you know, it's not one. It's like a very familiar battle, right? Like what I was saying. Like it's, you know, finances have been something that has been on people's minds probably for as long as there's been people. It's very familiar. And we always get it, right? We always get it when we need it. I mean, unless we really mess up. And people can really mess up, you know, and they can get, you know, they can commit a crime in order to get money, you know, or they can get hooked on stuff, and that takes all their money, and then they're again just like doing whatever they can for money so that they can, you know, buy their drug of choice. You can marry the wrong person, they can take a lot of your money when they leave you. That happens. Lots of things can happen, but that's all, again, all very familiar, almost archetypal in its expression. Yeah, so Allison, I'm just saying that it's not about something you're doing or not doing. It's something that you're blocked from. It is a literal block, like what you were saying, and it's not letting the information penetrate. Right? There are messages coming to you that will direct you to the place that you want to get to with all this. In terms of financial stability and other things too. But it's all part of. It's not like one thing. It's not this is the message you need to hear in order to make money. It's like there's messages that you need to hear that you're not getting because it's not comfortable. It's not familiar. So you just engage in the familiar struggle, like almost everyone. We're all very predictable in lots of ways, easily profiled, even when it's something we don't like. All right. So I get the Nine of Pentacles. I ask how, what's a better relationship, right? So it's either a familiar struggle and one that we will overcome, but it's always like a struggle. Another way to look at it is the Nine of Pentacles, which is literally, abundance, like the harvest. Reaping what you've sown. And that's kind of the thing. Like we've all been so conditioned to feel like we're not worthy. We need to do something of value. It's hard to know what that is. It's one thing to have a bountiful harvest, but if no one wants to buy what you've planted, it doesn't matter. So there's this sense of inadequacy, right? And then we're kind of afraid. We're sort of tentative. We go to what's familiar. This is how all these people have. This is how you make money. This is how, and this is how you get paid. This is what you sell in order to, get what you need to be able to eat and to provide for your, dependents. It's a very singular tract, right? It's like everybody goes to work. Everybody goes to work. It's the only way that it works. That's the only exchange. We sell ourselves. We sell our energy. We sell our time. And we do things that we would rather not do. And not in all cases, but in a lot of cases, that's true. And so we're sort of looking for, kind of like the easiest way of doing this. Like, what can I do that won't suck the most, that will pay me the most? Like, what's that balance? And that's just the first thing. There's this like collective thing that I'm going to clear today, and then I'll get to Lucia proper. There's just picking up on a lot of bad energy today. I've actually had a pretty good day. My energy's pretty high again. Last week was also pretty high, and that was nice, and there was some optimism. It's kind of the same thing. It's like, feeling good overall, but there is some bad energy flying around. I had to clear a couple of people before the podcast even started, and things aren't, technically things aren't quite working right. It's like we're already in Mercury retrograde, even though that's not happening until the middle of April. And it's just like decay when I look at it. Like there's decay, and not the type of decay that can be turned into compost, like not something that's being broken down, talking about the harvest, right? if there's decay, then that gets into the root. Like, it causes the plant to rot. It's not something that the plant can use because it hasn't been converted. It hasn't gone through the process of being turned into nutrient. It hasn't gone through that compost process. It hasn't been digested by fungus and worms and insects and all the things that go into creating like soil, or something even more dramatic. That's one, creating compost and all that, worms eating things like this is obviously very good, but it takes a long time, and it's pretty energy intensive. Those worms have to work a lot. You got to give them a lot to work with, or the fungus, or these are all very slow moving, very purposeful things. Another way that you can build very rich soil is to have a volcanic eruption, and blanket the whole area with ash, and the volcanic soil in especially the equatorial regions of the planet are the best. It's the best, right? It's like the best soil. You grow very fast producing, very potent plants. You got coffee, you got all the tropical fruits that are in season all year. Like, they grow all year. And I mean, part of that's obviously the climate, but the other part is the soil. The best of everything grows in these climates, and it's because the soil is volcanic, or it has been made through a series of volcanic eruptions, and that's actually kind of what's being asked for here. It's like this decay, this rot that's kind of set in, is it's not, it's only damaging, and like I said, the process of converting it into usable soil is very long. It's not that we don't have time to wait, but it's sort of like, it's not worth it. The payoff won't be worth the amount of energy that's gone into it. And that seems to be a real theme also about so much of what our world is doing right now. So many people, not necessarily, industries like, electric cars, right? Like, or anything, anything with a battery. How we mine lithium and cobalt. And it's a very dirty process, and a very energy intensive process, and then it has to be refined and then shipped, and then put into a battery that we have to constantly keep charged. It's a lot. It's a lot. And it's not like the payoff isn't necessarily worth it. Wind energy might be even better, like just the amount of energy and raw materials it takes to make one of those turbines, and then it doesn't really produce a whole lot of energy, as it turns out. All these solutions to our problems that are just actually demanding more energy, like the amount of plastic and all these things. And then, someday it will pay off, right? If we do enough of it, someday it will pay off. That's the whole message. But it's not. We're not going to pay it off. And that's the thing. It's not a payoff. So it's just debt. Coming back to the currency thing. So this rot is just basically, it's an accumulation of debt. Like it's an accumulation. It's not the payoff. And with the amount of debt that we've accrued, it's like we need a really fucking big payoff. Pardon me, but it's a really big payoff in order to balance things out. And then again, like, is it even worth it? Is it worth what we'll have to go through, to get that payout? So, yeah, so all this rot, is this, we just need to, something needs to come in that's like a volcano, and all that ash and all, and it's like destructive, certainly, but I don't know if anyone's seen the aftermath of when there's lava flows in Hawaii, or Iceland, when it gets to the ocean and it starts cooling, the after effect is like this really, it's quite soft. It's like, it's nice, I mean, sometimes there's like rock and things that form there, but I've seen footage of people walking on a beach after the lava flow has moved through, and it's sort of like this kind of soft, like black sand. It looks pretty cool. And that's, again, very rich, right? It's very rich in nutrient. It's like it's going to make good soil, and it's going to do it very quickly. And there's a particular, just like anything, depending on what kind of harvest you're looking for, what you're looking at growing requires different soil, right? Different kind of nutrients in a different sort of balance. And so it's not just a random volcanic eruption that we're looking at creating. It's rather something that's very specifically balanced to what is needed, to what we need. And when I say we, I don't mean necessarily everybody, but everyone who's watching, who's participating here, can get what they need. Everyone who's watching can get what they need. And we need a lot. Like, we need a lot. It's okay. But we need a consistently abundant harvest of what we've sown, what we planted in it. And that used to be true. It's really there's obviously like a lot of historical droughts and famines and all that stuff, but before in the before times, like before agriculture and all that, people were living in a real peak environment, right? Like none of the soil had been disturbed. When the first people started planting, it probably worked really, really well, and that's probably why they took to it, because it was easy. It's like, oh, we don't need to go out. We can bring the seed here, put it here. It will be, go to our next camp. It will be here when we cycle back next year, right? And it's like they didn't have to do anything. They didn't have to apply any kind of fertilizer or weed it. It was just like, here you go. We can get back to that, or we can. Back isn't the right word, because it's like not something that we've ever experienced, and it's not something that humans have experienced maybe for quite a while. Yeah, so I don't exactly know what the mechanism is, but we're just going to create the conditions that are necessary for the right kind of soil for the optimal harvest of what we all need. And yeah, it's kind of like a bit of a timeline jump. So sometimes you just kind of need to shift out of this timeline, move into another one. There's lots of timelines. The universe is infinite, so anything that can happen will happen, and is happening somewhere. It's just about sort of aligning our conscious awareness to that particular potential, and kind of hooking into that timeline where that potential is being realized. And so that's what we're going to do. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so again, I'm not really clear on what the mechanism is, but it seems like there's this, that sort of decay that I was picking up on that was really, rotting what we're trying to grow, what we're trying to harvest, the, abundance that we're trying to get to, just gets kind of wiped clean, and all the rot, all the plants aren't the right term, but all the energy, all the things that we put in to growing these things that are constantly under attack, from this rot, that where itself, like all of it just needed to go. I mean, it wasn't going to work. It wasn't working, and it wasn't going to work. So okay. All right. I'm going to pull up Lucia's chart. John, do you want to put that up for me as well?
Okay.
It's kind of an interesting one. Thank you. So there's an interesting thing that Lucia has going on. So first of all, she's a manifester, and I've talked about this before. There's been a number of female manifestors that I've worked on. I've had the pleasure of working on, and it's a difficult thing. It's kind of the same deal. It's like, what is it? You know, for a man, there's a lot of historical figures that you can look at that were manifestors, right? And this is, quite famously, Adolf Hitler, right? Not that he's someone that you want to emulate, but it's like, yeah, that's what a manifestor can do. And that's what manifestors have done throughout history, right? They've led men, that's it. They were royalty, they were generals, they were, Brahmin, right? That class manifestors. But there isn't the same, because women were excluded from these roles. What does it mean to be a manifestor and be female and be feminine? To be a mother and to be a wife, to be someone's partner, and to hold that feminine pole, to be the maternal frequency holder for your family matrix, for your family system, and be a manifestor. It's like, yeah, it's confusing. It's a very confusing thing, and it's confusing because no one's discussed, right? It's like the only role models that you have to look at again are like men, men who led men into battle, or who were just like very influential people, like Jack Nicholson, right? Manifestor. Everybody knows Jack Nicholson, Kim Basinger, also a manifestor. She didn't have nearly the same kind of career, and mostly played off her looks, which is fine. I mean, it's fine, but it's like, yeah, that's kind of, Jack's not. It's not ugly. He's not a necessarily handsome dude, but look at the career that he had, that he was allowed to have, and yeah, like there was male privilege being a part of that, but it's all rolled in. It's like, if that's what our history is, if that's where we come from, how does a female manifestor know how to work that, in a way that works for her? So, and that's not something we can answer, right? That's something that needs to be discovered, right? We need to get that requires clarity. She's also an emotional manifestor, so she has emotional authority. So even though she's a manifestor, she has to wait, right? She has to wait for that clarity. She can't just do what she feels like, because she might be in a wave where she's going to bring something to her that she really doesn't care for, but it's just like that part of the wave is going to bring that kind of experience in. And this is something that I really wanted to, just as a, aside, because 50% of the world has emotional authority, in a certain way, everybody has emotional authority. If I'm in the room with someone, they now have emotional authority, or they're being conditioned by mine. So even though there are lots of people with sacral authority, with splenic authority, self-projected, sounding board, all these different things, the fact of the matter is that if you're around people, you're being conditioned by their emotional authority. So it's always good to wait. No matter what, it's good to wait, because unless you're on your own and that you're not in anyone's field, your authority, your sacral authority, your splenic authority, whatever, it's going to be compromised, right, by the emotional conditioning of the people around you. So always for everybody, I think, it's good to wait. If you feel unsure, you feel like you're not certain, it's like, yeah, wait, go away, go off on your own, be in your own energy, sleep in your own bed, sleep on it in your own bed, see how you feel the next day, right? Now, there's one other thing that I found very interesting about Lucia's body graph. If you go up to the head center, you see she has the 63rd. Well, she has the 63 and the 64 defined in her head center. The 64 and the 47 make a complete channel, so that's like its own thing. You know, this is a person who has a very fixed way of thinking. You know, lots of activation in their defined head center, lots of activation in their defined ajna, in her defined ajna. The 64-47 is it's very abstract. It's sort of like it's a lot about focusing on the past. You know, so when we think about the past, when we recollect the past, it's like this kind of smattering, right? It's not a clear, you know, kind of linear thing. It's like bits and pieces of what's happened, and then you can kind of mix it together, knowing what has happened. So when you recall things, you already know how it went, and so the images that come, you can put some context to it, and that's very much what this channel does. This 64-47. So. Yeah, and you know, it's by design very abstract and very kind of creative, you know, and so that's going to be a very fundamental way. And then the 1156 from the ajna to the throat also, you know, it's like being stimulated. You know, it's abstract, like what can stimulate you and how it stimulates you and what you seek out as, you know, stimulation. It can be very, very varied, but this is going to be something that she's going to want. You know, she's going to want to be stimulated, and she's going to want to be stimulated by the right thing, the thing that she's in the mood for, right? If she's stimulated by something that she's not in the mood for, it's not going to go well, and that can happen, of course, you know. But that's also something that, you know, she could really be made aware of, right? It's like she's going to be responsive mentally. You know, and there's going to be a lot of kind of going back over things over and over and over again, but it's all necessary. Now, the 63rd gate is very different from the 64. It's logical rather than abstract. And the 63 is the gate of doubt. And, you know, doubt being necessary. Again, like pausing, you know, making sure you have, I've talked about this before, but making sure you have everything you need before you go. You know, you're at someone's house and you're walking out the door, you know, you make sure you have your jacket, you make sure you have your keys, you make sure you have your wallet, you know, and because you don't want to leave anything behind, because you're not necessarily coming back here, right? Or you don't want to, right? It's going to take you like off your course if you have to turn around and come back, and it's kind of a bother and it's awkward and blah blah blah. So you take the time to make sure, right? It's like, oh, do I have everything? You know, that's that gate. She has this gate activated by two. Let me just. Yeah, so her design Mars and her South Node. Yeah, so the personality South Node is the 63.1. First line of the 63rd gate. This is when you have different planets activating different gates, they're going to be an exaltation or detriment, right? It's going to be one or the other usually. Sometimes you get only one. Sometimes you only get the exaltation. Sometimes you only get the detriment. In this case, with the South Node in the first line of the 63rd gate, that's detriment. So it's only going to go one way usually, and the tendency in achievement to immediately seek new goals at the risk of destabilizing what has already been accomplished. The pressure in achievement to still doubt one's capacity and to immediately seek new goals. Now again with Mars, this time in the fifth gate of the 63rd, fifth line of the 63rd gate, detriment, only detriment. A tendency in triumph to pay lip service to such values, and given such leadership, these values will be reduced to nothing more than empty rituals. Doubting one's process despite understanding. So there's going to be always this pressure, right? The head center is about pressure. It's always going to be this pressure basically to start something new, because she would be convinced that whatever she's doing isn't working. You know, that doubt's going to settle in. It's like that rot that I was talking about. Like the doubt's going to settle in, and she will be convinced, even though things might not even look all that bad, or they're actually moving forward, that she needs to do something different, right? This isn't working. Now, at the same time, she has the 46 gate, and this is the gate of determination, of pushing upward, and this is her design earth. So this is literally what she's rooted in. She's rooted in this. Dedication, dedication in obscurity that is unexpectedly discovered. Art for art's sake. Any creative endeavor that is self-fulfilling sooner or later is recognized. The potential for creative success through dedication. That's the exaltation. Even the detriment isn't really all that bad because it's Jupiter. So the ability to judge the potential of those in obscurity, but often solely to benefit one's own success. The determination to recognize and benefit from the success of others. So, either way, it's like, this is a person who's very creative, very artistic. And not only is she artistic, she can recognize the ability in others. And so whether it's her art or her sort of acting as an agent, say, for someone else's sake, who's kind of obscure, but their art's really good, or whatever they're creating is really great. It's like, then they can both succeed. So, but it requires a stick-to-itiveness, which her 63rd gate is going to continually put pressure to walk away from. And then with that 64th gate, there's like all these experiences, right, going back through her past and collecting all the experiences of what's happened before to kind of make sense of what's happening now. And it's going to be all these things, all the times that she has sort of dedicated herself to something and it hasn't really paid out. And that the whole time she's been trying to work on it, there's this pressure, the sense that, and maybe the sense is coming from, somewhere else, right? The 63rd gate being in the South Node. The South Node is, environment. It's not really what we are. It's like what the environment kind of makes us be. So there would be not only her own doubt, right, from her design side, which is going to be subconscious, unconscious. It's also going to be coming from people in her sphere, right? People who she's literally around, telling her or showing her that what she's doing isn't correct. And then how could you dedicate yourself to anything or trust that even what's valuable, what's going to work when that's what your experience is. And she's a manifester, she's an emotional manifester. So, just a lot of potential there to repeat, to get stuck in patterns that aren't working, but she doesn't, necessarily know how to break out of them. Finances being one of those. And this is this is the sort of person who needs to ask people before she acts, right? Which again, for a manifestor isn't ideal, She just wants to do what she wants to do when she wants to do it because she's a manifestor, and that's built in. But the fact of the matter is that there's other things going on here, and so finding someone who she can trust and use as an advisor. I mean, all of the great kings and queens and all, they had people who they could trust, people who they could rely on, who would tell them, like, this is a good idea, or this is not a good idea, or this is going to work, or this isn't. And not to say that you need to solely rely on the advice of other people, but it's good to have that feedback, see how you feel about it. So, there's just something we can do to kind of clear, like, again, there's a lot, what's the right word here? Spinning. There's a lot spinning around all these ideas and concepts of, and this is good for everyone as well to kind of start paying attention to. But Lucia, specifically, all these concepts and all these ideas about do things the right way and how to do things the wrong way. And that when you're doing things the wrong way, you stop doing them the wrong way and you reset and you do it the right way. But every time you reset, you're just doing, it's not for you. It's not about resetting. It's about like persisting, like pick something and stick to it. Just stick to it. It doesn't matter what it is, it's going to work. If you stick to it, it works. The problem is that you've had all this pressure not to stick to it. And you've had all these people telling you that this isn't worth sticking to, this isn't worth dedicating your life to. You need to be more, logical, less abstract. But the fact is that you're very abstract, and you're very artistic, and you're very creative. So it's not going to necessarily make sense, or it won't make sense, right? Because we've all been conditioned, right, to be very, very clear and very logical and very like structured and planned and, and I mean, it's that same thing. It's like, yeah, that's what you do to make money when that's all you want, right? When all you want is money, and it just doesn't matter how you get it, right? You know how to get it. We all know how to get money, right? We all see people do it. We know how it's done. The issue is that I'm not wired that way. Like I can't show up at the same. It's nothing against people who do that, but it's like I can't. Like I just can't. It's not for lack of trying. You just understand at a certain point that this isn't how you're built. You're wired differently. And there's a lot of people who are, and they still find a way to show up every day at the same job at the same time and do whatever they're doing, even though they couldn't care less about it. And and that's like, it's not great. It's just not. These are people who get sick. These are people who develop thyroid conditions. These are people who, I don't know. Just they're shut down. They're medicated and they go on Disney cruises and these kind of things. So Lucia, and by extension, I know Allison's here, and I know that she has something similar going on. She's not a manifester, but she'll benefit from this. I'll benefit from this. Anyone who's in the field right now is gonna benefit. So we need to go into the nervous system, and into the highest part of the nervous system, like the most developed, like the most high, I don't know why it wants to come forward like that, but yeah, the most high, like the most highly developed, most energy intensive, because that's where it's going to come, like the insight, the inspiration, the thing that you want to dedicate yourself to, that you want to commit to, that you want to follow through and see it complete. It's going to come from up there. Our head center pokes out of our field. If you look at the body graph, the head center is actually poking out of the body somewhat. So it's not contained within, it's poking out, and it's getting inspiration, it's getting awareness, it's getting insight from what's happening like outside of us, the parts that we can't see or touch or taste or smell, right? Our head center is picking up on that. The most highly developed aspect of our nervous system is digesting and assimilating all that information. And that's also about location, because it's sort of like a beacon in a certain way. It gives us awareness about where we are, and what we need to know about our location, about our talking about timelines, that you can have one timeline and then you kind of jump into another, and then things are like different but not quite different. They're recognizable but not. You have deja vu. These are all these things happen, and it's just the only way to really make sense of where you find yourself is by what your head is sort of picking up outside of yourself, and then percolating downward. And it's the most developed part of our nervous system that's on the receiving end of that in a physical way. And it's also, how our body is going to respond, right? Our body is always being told where we are based on what our nervous system is sending it. And so the equilibrium and the balance of our physical form, and money is very physical, right? It's very material, very mundane. It's not a high thing. It's conceptual, it's kind of abstract, but it's also very tangible, very much part of the three-dimensional experience. But just to know what direction to move in, what to dedicate yourself to. It's like that needs to be clear. Recognizing that you're always going to have doubt, you're always going to have pressure to pull out, to stop doing something. Is like absolutely the worst thing that you can do is stop once you've started. You need to just keep going. Always just keep going. So all the things that have accumulated in your head center and in the highest, most developed part of your nervous system, that's interfacing with that head center and the inspiration and the awareness of what's outside of you, and that kind of coming in and being brought down to the appropriate areas where it can be kind of made physically manifest, right? Where it can become a part of your physical experience, with money being a part of that, but not the only thing. Just sort of life in general. Everything flows better when you have, money's a real nice lubricant. Everything flows better when we have it. Well, and when we get it correctly also. Yeah, just lifting it off. It's like a hat, kind of. It's like a hat that was being worn and was just covering up, making that receiver a bit less sensitive and a bit less capable of being inspired by the right thing, or showing you what is correct to be inspired by and what to dedicate yourself to. And just really emphasizing that doubt, so much doubt, and the when you have the 63 and it's hanging, you're going to want the 4. The 4th gate is on the other side of the 63. The 4th gate's the gate of youthful folly, and people with the 4th gate, such as myself, we can take chances, and we can do things without a whole lot of consequences. But for you, that wouldn't necessarily work, right? So now you're a manifester, so you kind of have that built in. It's like you can do stuff and you'll get away with it, like it will be okay. But it's different, right? It's a different sort of thing. It's like, it's not youthful folly. It's not I'm going to take this chance, and it doesn't really, it's not innocent. It's not let's see what happens, right? That's not the correct energy for you to move forward with. It's that it's that sort of manifester. They're not, manifestors aren't dangerous, but they're sort of like a sleeping tiger. Like you don't really, you don't want to step on their tail and wake them up, because if a manifestor's in a bad mood, it's like, that's not good. It's not good for them. It's not good for you, if you put them in that place. And like the keynote of the manifestor is peace. So being at peace and not being agitated, not being angry, which is also very, that's there, right? But people need to fear you a little bit. It's not like you're not a child that people think are cute. Like, look what the kid's doing. It's not like that, right? For you, it's like, no, you're a serious woman. You're artistic and you're creative, but you're serious, and you need to be taken seriously. And if people don't take you seriously and doubt you, then it's this feedback. It's like, okay, well, you don't get me then. You don't get me. You don't get my manifestor aura. You don't get to benefit from what I have, right? And that's really the energy that you can come forward in. And this is another thing for women especially. I mean, that's just a bitch. Who does she think she is? Like, walking around all whatever. Yeah, but you can afford to walk around like that, right? Because people, like the right people in the right places will like appreciate that, and will see that that's actually you at your most authentic, and that you can, you know, just as easily like turn around and say like, see you later, you know, if someone's kind of pissing you off. And yeah, just that, the threat of it, you know, just of being cut out, like, no, I'm done with you. Maybe that's correct, and maybe it's fine that that's happening, or maybe that's what they need to see from you to understand that they're on thin ice and they need to do better. You know, they need to do better by you. But it's, yeah, so there's that conditioning of all the doubt, right? That's kind of forcing you, you know, people telling you that you're doing it wrong, and so you got to try, you got to reset and start over, which is like the worst thing, and we're clearing that out. And then that also freeing up the head center and the higher aspects of the nervous system to acquire the necessary data, the necessary inspiration. Then at the same time, there's all this other conditioning, and this is more on the 64 end of, yeah, just like women being conditioned to just not be like that, right? To not be. I mean, again, it's different now. There's like a, you know, a bit of a girl boss archetype, but even that's kind of cringe, kind of annoying, and you know, it's really still under like masculine supervision, right? It's like, you know, that sort of woman got to her position because she played the right role. It's like this company needs a woman to represent it, and they want this kind of woman, and this woman fits. And so again, it's the same thing. It's like, it's not really what she is, it's just what she needs to become in order to get the money and the status that she wants. So she's still selling herself. She's still not being authentic. She's being what she knows she needs to be to get what she thinks she wants. And then, as per, you know, usual, when she gets it, it's not all that satisfying, or doesn't feel all that successful. And again, these are women who develop, you know, thyroid issues, or, you know, autoimmune disorders, and like, you know, all this other stuff. Okay, so yeah, so you know, bringing in sort of all the past experiences of what it is to be a woman, and what people expect from you, you know, as that, and how to bring forward that aggressive aspect of your persona, of your personality, letting it be seen, letting it be shown. And there's a reason why I brought your body graph out today, you know, because I wanted people to see you. It's good, right? It's good. Like, you need to be public. You need to be like front facing. People need to see you. And there's just all this conditioning to sort of stay hidden, you know, and let other people be in front, and let other people take charge, and like all this other stuff. And it's not where it's at for you. So we'll clear all that as well. So just, yeah, a lot of moving out all these qualities, all these aspects. All right. Okay. Okay, good. All right. Okay, that's where we're gonna pause it there. If there's anyone else who wants anything done, either with their body graph, some human design questions, or some kind of work, you could just let me know. Let me know in the chat, and I'll take a drink of water. Again, we need waiting music. I keep on forgetting to cue up a track. All right, that's fine. I got the I got the high priestess to end it here today anyway, so we'll call it for this evening. All right, so thank you all for participating with me today, and I'll see you next week.